Let's face it, The Eye of the World isn't a thriller. It's epic fantasy. But that doesn't mean there aren't any boring parts either. The angle I'm taking on this video is actually piggybacking off a conversation that I had with Platinum 16 on my previous Wheel of Time video. This conversation was started with Platinum 16's comment. I bought The Eye of the World a few weeks ago, and I read the first 100 pages, but I have to admit I got a bit bored. Is it worth trying to push through and keep going? I gave Platinum 16 my short answer, but here's my long answer. I'd be lying if I didn't say that there weren't some boring parts. In fact, I would say that the first 5 chapters for me were pretty boring. In my first video I did, after reading just the first chapter, I was pretty snarky and skeptical, and that skepticism and snarkicism didn't leave until later on in the book. It took about 5 chapters for me to be a little bit more invested, and honestly maybe even 10 chapters until I was really in and hooked. As characters go, there were several characters that had a really interesting character development, and there were some that were more stagnant. The characters that were developed really interestingly. I really liked Perrin's character development, and I also really enjoyed Matt's character development, and Nynaeve and Egwene's connection to the one source was also handled really well, and it was interesting to see Nynaeve come to terms with the fact that she actually had been touching the one source all this time. As for the stagnant characters, the two kind of head figures of the group, Moraine and Lan, didn't really change that much, which I honestly was okay with. I felt like having some more stagnant, some more maybe stagnant's not a good word, some more stable characters that weren't changing actually added some added uniqueness to those characters that made both of them feel very mysterious. And I'm actually, because of their stagnancy, I feel like I'm making up words. I was a lot more interested to find out more about them. And as relationships go, I wanted more from the relationship between Rand and Egwene. I felt like you had the strings plucked every once in a while, but there was never a full song played. I feel actually differently about Lan and Nynaeve. That relationship caught me by surprise, and those characters, neither one of them were your main characters, and so having it kind of as I don't know, your side dish to the main story worked out really well. Now let's talk about Rand. Rand also felt like a stable character, that his personality didn't change much throughout the story until the very end. I'm still waiting to find out how I feel about Rand's character development, if I liked that it was sudden and abrupt at the end, or if I didn't like it. The setting. I think I actually complained about the setting in my very first video, but I can't say enough about the descriptions. They just flowed so easy. Once you get through the first, I don't know, probably 5 chapters, you don't even notice them anymore. They're just there, and you just go with it. And there's so many of them. It's chock full of setting. I did have one complaint about the setting though, and that was it wasn't very fantastic until the very end again. And it was cool to have that fantasticity, these words, at the end. I wanted more earlier on. And I mean, it's not much of a surprise. I feel like this is pretty obvious. It starts out winter, it's still winter, and spring isn't coming. And obviously spring shows up at the end. And it was just kind of oh yeah, Narnia. I wish that Beltane had happened or something. There was just oh yeah, there's flowers and cool, book's over. Fantastical elements. This book has it all. You've got magical creatures, you've got spells and magic, you've got interesting settings, you've got weird people that may or may not be people. You have different species or races, whatever you call them in fantasy. And that's one of the things I'm most excited to find out more about, like the Ogiers. And the only complaint that I have is that I wish that there were more fantastic creatures that were on the like neutral side of the world. All of the fantastical creatures seemed to be in the dark side, and I'm waiting to get something that's on either just on the good side or just is, oh look, there's a unicorn and it's just a unicorn and it's just a unicorn. It's not good or bad, it's just an animal. So I don't know, we'll see if we get that or not. As the plot goes, it's a kind of a travel vlog, and if you like travel vlogs, it's awesome. I personally only struggled with a few sections of the story, and I already talked about the beginning, and unfortunately, I started struggling with it at the end. I didn't know, even at the end, you don't know what the Eye of the World is until like the very, very end, and that's okay, but it would have been nice to know when the characters decide we are going to the Eye of the World, to know what they were going towards and what they were planning on doing and something. Even at the end of the story, there were two characters that had no idea what had happened at the Eye of the World, and they said, actually three, and they said, well, did we do it? And people just said yeah, and they said okay. And that was it. And I was just like, why don't we know? Like, what's the problem with knowing a little bit of information here? So that's my complaint. But overall, it was like I said, I couldn't put this book down past chapter 5. And I just went and went and went and went and went, and it was awesome. In this section of the video, I'm going to react to the stupid predictions that I made, starting with the first video.
Number 1, Rand is the dragon.
Yes, I got this one right.
When I say the dragon, I don't mean an animal.
Rand wasn't an actual dragon, as far as I know.
Honestly, I'm not sure. But I guess it's altogether possible that origin story that we read was not actually how it happened, and
honestly, I still have no idea if that actually was how it happened or if it was just like myth. It kind of seemed like it was how it happened, but it really doesn't know. That doesn't make any sense.
Number 2, the love triangle. We already know that Rand has feelings for Egwene.
I don't even remember what I said here.
I hope I'm pronouncing that wrong, because Egwene is just a horrible sounding name. But it could be.
I've learned it's Egwene.
I also know that Egwene doesn't have feelings for Rand. Or at least it seems like she doesn't. I think, though, we're going to find out that Egwene has feelings for Mat.
So I thought that she didn't have feelings, but I guess she did. Sort of teased like this thing with Perrin instead of Mat, so I was definitely wrong there, but even that was like hardly a tease.
Number 3, the Ring Wraith, the Black Rider, will kill Tam.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about this one completely. I was totally wrong. I was actually pretty close though, because Tam gets pretty destroyed. Trollocs actually did rip him apart.
Number 4, why the Wisdom isn't answering questions.
I actually still don't know why she wasn't answering questions. None of the things that they were saying ended up being right. She just seems very competent. Maybe I don't know why. All right, so we're gonna check out my predictions for this second video when I was halfway through the book. Rand and Mat will both wield some kind of power. I would say that I was wrong about Mat, because Mat doesn't really wield power. He more it's kind of the opposite. Power got put on him. Number 2, Mat is going to become a dark. And Mat becoming a dark friend is interesting too, because he does kind of turn that way, but it's not with Ba'alzamon. It's just evil, I guess. Number 3, Thom is still alive. I still don't know about Thom. He's not done with the story. They hint at that, and I don't know. I kind of feel like he still could become a dark friend, but I really haven't. He didn't show up again in the story, so he could, I guess, still even be dead. So I could just be totally wrong. Number 4, Rand will participate in the Hunt of the Horn. Next book, I guess. I think the next one's the Hunt. I have no idea. Like, they have mentioned it, but then yeah, I don't know. And it kind of seems like Rand's just gonna go hide out and do nothing. So the Fellowship will be broken. They all got back together. I feel like this still could happen in a future book, but it didn't happen in this one. So. What is Moraine up to? That ending was just like, oh my gosh. Because this whole time I thought, you know what, we can trust her. They've like teased that we can't trust the Aes Sedai and that they have, and I did a whole video about whether we can trust them or not, and I came out with saying like I think we can trust her, and like turns out that she has some kind of ulterior motive that we have no idea. She could even be working with Balzamon. Who knows? Maybe this is like a bigger plan. I have no idea. What is she doing? My next question is, when else has Rand been using the One Source? I'm actually really curious if this is one of those things where you read through the book again and you find like all these little details where you're like, oh, I think he was using it there. Oh, I think he was using it there. I love these kind of books. And if this is one of those, I'd be really interested in the comments for those of you who have already read the book a couple times, because I know you're out there. Like, let me know. Is this one of those books that I should reread and I'll like find all these little tiny details? Next question: what happens when a guy uses the One Source? They've said that like you go mad, but like what actually happens? Because Rand doesn't even know that it's happening, and we really didn't see much change in him except like now he's freaking out, and that almost seems like not using it is what makes you go crazy, but just the fact that you know that you used it makes you go crazy. And then it's like, well, who came up with that idea anyway? That's stupid. But I'm sure something happens, but I don't know yet, so that's my question. Also, can like going crazy or whatever happens to you, can that be avoided? If it can be, I'm super skeptical that Rand's going to be able to do it, because he doesn't even know when he's using it, except for the one big obvious time. But my last question is like, who cares if Rand is the dragon? Not actually who cares, but like, what does that mean? What does that mean for the story? What does that mean for Rand? And maybe that's even a lie that he is the dragon, but it seems like he is. And if he is the dragon, then like why isn't he accompanying the horn? If any guy who touches Saidar like just gets destroyed and goes crazy, how is the light ever going to win? Like, why should I read the next 300,000 Wheel of Time books? Finally, if you're looking for an immersive fantasy world that goes on for books and books and books, if that's your game, Eye of the World is it. I recommend getting in your most comfortable chair, putting your feet up, and disappearing for a very long time. That's what I plan on doing. Hold on, let me go find book 2. Oh, you guys are still there? I guess while you're here, you should like and subscribe, but I don't know, the video's over. Go check out another one of my videos. I'll see you guys in the next adventure.